Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table Podcast. My name is Paul Berserker01, Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender at the Astropub, your professor on the Astro Historian, and your moderator here at the Captain's Table Podcast. Joining me today is the Inforunners and Star Jump for discussing some of the most. We do this, well, I would say, like twice a year, at least, if not longer.
Trist, when did you join Stardom?
Are you not
I didn't. I just wanted to explain. I haven't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's my bad. So Inforunners and Trist. But let's introduce everybody, because in case you haven't heard these names before, I'll start with you, Al. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can we find you?
Now, Paulie, I'm Old Man Hurston. I do the persona Old Man Hurston, named by Paul.
Yeah.
So Paul is now Paulie, the barkeep for Old Man Hurston.
I still want the CIG to make that canon. You know, I want Old Man Hurston to be canon. Old Man Al Hurston.
Yeah, he's probably from some old vagrant.
Yeah.
Sitting in some old farm somewhere.
Making this like Psycho's base janitor that works at Lawville that thinks he's the head of the Hurston family.
Yeah, something like that. Something that people call Old Man Hurston, but whatever. I love Star Citizen. I love history. I love ships. So that ends to mean I love lore.
Nice.
And I'm one of him Inforunners.
Yeah, you can also find him sometimes on when I have to restart that.
Oh, yes.
I have to get that back into running, which I will, but I'm trying to do everything by
Lore
pieces.
Citizen podcast.
Yeah, the Lore Citizen podcast. That'll come back.
Which does have one of the best interviews with Dave Haddock.
It is. I don't think X, you didn't interview, right? I don't think anyone's actually interviewed Dave Haddock when it came to story outside of us. So
No, you're the only ones that I'm aware of. I never actually asked him, to be honest, but yeah.
It was an enlightening interview, especially if you're interested in what Squadron 42 is going to be like. Listen to Dave Haddock talk about the game and also his own experiences. Like, that's how I discovered that Dave Haddock is a horror fan. He loves horror movies and horror media. And that's how I knew immediately when he did that. When I said that, I was like, oh, we're going to have some characters in this game. Because for those of you who don't know, one of the key hallmarks about writing horror is you want to make sure that the people whom you are following are likable enough that you want to root for them to survive or root for them to die. One of the two, like you want to have some sort of stake. And the way you do that is making compelling characters. And as a result, I knew that like he was probably going to lean into the characterization. So like we may not get really great plot narratives in Squadron, but we're going to get some really interesting characters in Squadron. And so far from what we've seen from like the Moro tour and some of the other things, it's definitely what they're aiming for. So, Trist, who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? And where can they find you?
I'm Tristan. You can find me under this very name, and I do mostly just creative stuff. So I started out making my own ships for Star Citizen. Then I made some ships that exist, and I created the interiors of stuff that isn't ready and walked around that, and people kind of like that. And then more recently, I did a lot on these silhouettes. So I draw some ideas that I had that could be what it is. It's a mix of speculation and what I would like it to be. And so with that, I got kind of into talking to Execute and Grim. But yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm not part of Star Jump. I talked to Grim a lot, and he also inspired me to do a lot of what I do because I saw him getting into the files and comparing models and stuff. That's also what I kind of do. So that's how we got together. But as for now, I'm just doing my own stuff, my own creative building and modeling and stuff.
Yeah, my bad. Didn't mean to spread misinformation like that. We have to start up the bot because I keep forgetting to do that.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah. Well, at least someone mentioned earlier, like, so it was like, is this a Q&A on chat? It's like, it is, but not the section. there is a Q&A.
But
where can they find
your questions in? The bot will get it.
Yeah.
Basically only on YouTube.
Under Trist PWN like that, or?
Yeah. That's my channel name.
Okay.
I'm looking for a name that is better memorizable, but I haven't found one yet. So that's just my username I have for decades now.
All right.
But yeah, just on YouTube. I stream too sometimes, but it's all on YouTube. I haven't really reached out anywhere else.
Awesome. And then last but certainly not least, my inner instincts was to say last and least, because I like to mess with Execute. But Execute, who are you? What are you doing, Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
I am Disco Lando's long lost brother and Space Hobo. No, I'm one of the infrunners, like these three of the guys here. Not this one because he's not this one because he's. You made my camera backwards. That's fucking me around. I can tell because my nose looks wrong.
I can switch your camera. Like
anyway, no, that's fine.
If you had a mustache, I would have believed you.
Yeah, maybe I should just grow out the mustache.
That's because Disco's trying to distance himself.
Yeah,
he's got rid of the beard to distance himself.
Yeah, he's trying to he's trying to discredit me.
Yes,
that's fine. No, but yeah, we just I don't know, with our grid and the other boys, we just talk about Star Citizen. We love the game as much as everyone else. We're just big fans like anyone else, and we like to speculate on a bunch of stuff and mainly ships. I think that's what we're really known for, and that's probably why I've been dragged along today, kicking and screaming.
Yes,
getting me up at
ungodly hours.
Way too early.
Yeah.
No, it's not ungodly. It's 6 a.m. Our grid gets up earlier than this normally, but for me, it's ghastly because
it's 6 a.m. and it's the winter, so it's dark.
Yeah, I sleep like a drunk peasant a lot. My sleep rotates, and I'm especially at the moment I'm trying to move it all around. And I've been doing it all week trying to get it to 2 a.m. for Invictus next week. So and this kind of threw a spanner in the works, but I'll get it there. I've got another couple of days to move it there.
So for those of you who don't know, that's the kind of the title of the show. It's what we're going to be doing is we're talking about the ships of Invictus.
See, Drayson's right. My nose does look bigger on when it's mirrored. It's weird.
I just flipped it back.
I don't know. It makes my nose anyway.
I just
if I shave my beard off, my nose goes like it looks 3 times bigger. I don't know why.
That's the thing. It's
vanity. All is vanity.
It's all about how you groom your face. That changes how your facial features.
What's grooming?
Moving on. Well, as I said, we're going to talk about the ships of Invictus. We're going to start with the smallest of the new ships, the vehicle, technically, and I'm going to summarize what I just read on its plaque. But the MTC, the Greycat MTC, effectively, it is a transport that also has space for suit lockers, weapons, and other cargo, and it's a little bit bigger than the Steve. I think it's around the same size as the Steve, maybe a little bit bigger, but it's very much in that Greycat family of buggies that like the Steve and the STV and such. So X, your thoughts on the MTC?
Sorry, I just read Tris Point just sent me something that's making me laugh. On the Greycat MTC, I do think that there is going to be another variant. They did find MTX in the file, and the first time we saw this thing was called the Greycat Cav, and it was attached to missiles. And if you actually look at it, it almost looks like the back part can move. Mm-hmm. And we are seeing a lot of variants come out with a new vehicle. So I'll just say that as a caveat straight off the bat. But this one here, the real thing that came out on our stream yesterday, Agrid, you can jump in here if you want. Was that it's the smallest, and Expat was the one that brought this up, by the way, so I'll give her credit where credit is due. The smallest contained vehicle. What'd she call it, Algrid? What was the word she
used?
Cab. Enclosed cab, yeah. Smallest enclosed cab vehicle. And I think it will, like you're suggesting, fit in a lot of smaller spaces. But it is essentially an Ursa Light, is how I'm kind of looking at it. But it's got the suit locker, which the Ursa doesn't have.
Like a more useful mule.
Yeah. I actually think when you start to really lay it out and you look at the Steve and you look at the other things and the fact that it's got the suit locker, you're giving up cargo, though. You don't get cargo. That's the real kicker of this thing. But you've obviously got enough space. You could just sit something on the floor. But it would have been nice to have like 2 SCU of cargo space or something like that. But if they did that, nobody would buy the other ones, would they? So yeah.
Trist, your thoughts on the MTC based off what you've seen, based off of since you specifically like to do extrapolations, and we've seen it, and we don't know a lot. What is your professional speculation opinion on the MTC?
I don't know on this one. I mean, this is one of the few Silhouette ones that I haven't really talked about because I had no idea. I heard that it has a missile variant coming, I don't know, half a year ago.
Mhm.
So I'm with X on that. That's for sure, I think. But the one that we get now, the MTC, I'm not sure what to make of it. They call it a mobile base and some kind of mobile armory. But if it is not able to really carry the people with it, I'm not sure what to do with it, to be honest. I mean, it's cool that it's small, but I don't really see the purpose because you will need something else to get the people there.
Yeah. All right.
It's
Al.
interesting, but
Al, your thoughts on it?
Yeah. All right. It's small. To me, it does feel like that small Ursa. It's one of the things I originally thought the G12 was going to be. And when the G12 stats came out, it was twice. It was the G12 was basically a wider Ursa with less crew. This is less crew, less cargo, but it's certainly smaller. It does feel mule shaped or mule sized in that sense. That makes it good. In terms of being able to carry the couple of suits and the weapons, you've got the full range of weapons it can do. It's got the large weapon rack. It's got the small ones. So that makes it versatile in that sense. In terms of purpose, MTC, Mobile Tactical Center, or in that sense, if it's one for controlling a ground combat, that gives it validity. But I tend to think it's also got that ability to be almost like that little scout vehicle that goes up and laser designates a target for bombers to come in. A bit like we were talking yesterday, the
the laser targeting I think will be on the other one though, Margaret. I don't think it'll be on this one.
But that type of idea where you send this forward and does like
Reconnaissance
what was
Force
it,
or something?
the movie? What movie was
it? The one I was talking about yesterday was Independence Day at
Independence
Houston,
Day, where the little tank goes forward to
pull forward while they were monitoring the
bombing,
nuke that was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking about
that's the type of thing I could see that being.
Yeah, I was talking about the MTX, and I said it would be really cool if it had like laser targeting for the bombers and things like that. And then if it's also firing its own missiles, so it can laser target where they go and stuff like that. It can work with the storm. And Chris has talked about that stuff in the past, basically. And SA talks about it a lot as well. But yeah,
but I could see that small vehicle doing that.
And
then as we've said, I could
let Al finish and then go X. Go ahead, Al.
Yeah,
as we've said, I could see variants coming as well. It looks like it's been designed, developed as a modular vehicle for the developers, not necessarily for us to be able to modular things. But yeah, it looks like we'll get variants.
X, you're saying?
I think that when I think through the suit locker stuff, basically, I think the advantage there for the game right now is a lot of people that do bunker runs and stuff like that. When we get up to the part where you can't wear heavy armor and stuff like that, I think it's going to be like that's where vehicles like this will start to shine, where you can pull out the heavy armor at the last mile type of thing. Like I know a lot of people when they were doing, how they used to have turrets where you used to go to the bunkers, they would land like a kilometer and a half. I think it was 1,600 meters. Yeah. They'd land outside and then they'd drive in to avoid the turrets. It's the perfect vehicle for that. Once the actual needing to change armor is in. So
yeah. I the thing I saw with the MTC is that it's both a looting vehicle because of that sort of like being able to take armor and then stick it in there, but also as you said, like it's an adaptable frame, the ability to swap out your armor to specialized armor. So it's because maybe like you are, because it's mentioned as sort of like security, so you might be able to like drive it around. Like police cars in the United States typically have normal car, but in the trunk they'll have something like an AR-15 or a shotgun or something else like that adds to them if they need to pull it out, and maybe even body armor if they're not wearing body armor. So it feels like that sort of patrol cruiser, almost like a security cruiser designed to go around and, you know, if you need to like put on the heavy armor because now suddenly it's a situation where you need to don some clothing. And so for NPCs, I could see it like that. And then for players, you could use it for like looting or for situational adaptability. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this then, and I'll start with Tris. Do you see another vehicle coming that would have the suit locker capability? Because it seems like a real oversight when you start to think about it. Like compared to what we have, right?
Trist?
There's no, Trist.
I mean, now that you say that, there is this big Atlas thing that is still unknown.
Yeah, I see.
Maybe that's the same.
True.
Yeah.
True.
I
have. I'll just real quick. I've had a lot of people say that they think that that's a medical variant because of the way it's really large at the back, and there's like all these vehicles that are in every single army around the world. They all have this thing, and it's taller so people can stand up for medical reasons. Anyway,
that's what I came up with too, right? But it's it doesn't have to exclude it's I mean, if it is a medical one, then we kind of thought that it's like a heavy medical one compared to the other Ursa. So more like the med from Cyberpunk.
Yeah. I was gonna say like the medical terrapin, a little bit like that.
Yeah, right.
But a vehicle,
a level 2 versus level 3. Yeah.
Which also includes heavy doctors with heavy weapons
and
look,
your
armor. So
your fellow Star Jump is in chat there.
Excuse me, let me let that down.
No way. He was saying
I was saying Trist was part of Star Jump because the way X was like both X and Trist were talking, I was like, oh, they're part of Star Jump because Trist was like, yeah, I hang out with X and Trist and Grim and that kind of thing. And Execute was like, yeah, you should get I'll read exactly what X said to me. He said Chris was coming onto it. Yeah, and the way it was, everything was
nothing about Star Jump. See, it's all him, not me.
I was me making an assumption.
It was implied. I'm going to blame Execute. It's all Execute.
It's always my fault.
Absolutely.
I
actually
go ahead.
To come in with your question, I actually think we will see more because if you look at that have the suit lockers, because if you look at the vehicles so far, we've got the Ursa that doesn't, and the Ursa's seats are just ordinary seats. You can't wear armor with those, so that's the big downside with the Ursa.
Oh, the poets in chat.
The Spartan has the place for a squad 8 crew with their full heavy armor, so those seats are specific. But there's no other vehicle apart from the MTC that has the ability to put heavy armor on. So it's the only vehicle we've got so far with those suit lockers. So I think we will see more. Will the G12 have that ability? Don't know.
It's clearly a 1.0 direction because like since the what was the starter ship that's from Crusader, the Intrepid. Since the Intrepid was released, pretty much every ship has been, or vehicle now has been that sort of direction of suit lockers. There were suit lockers before. A lot of the Argo ships had suit lockers. Famously, I think the Starfarer was one of the first ships to ever have a suit locker. But a lot of those were just sort of stand-in suit lockers. Like they were like, oh yeah, this is for a suit locker, which will come eventually, but there's no sort of discussion around it. It's really the discussion around 1.0 with the release of the Intrepid that it really starts to see that they're trying to like explain what suit lockers are and how it's going to work and stuff like that. So,
and yet we've known for years, haven't we, that the plan was that you would not be able to wear your heavy armor when you're piloting a ship.
That's why you need to have those drop pod, those harnesses are designed so you can sit down wearing heavy armor. That's why they exist. So,
yep.
Yeah.
I also just had the Paladin open, and they have a whole room dedicated to just the suit locker. So
yeah,
that kind of proves your point.
Yeah. So I think we're going to see more, and we'll probably go back and see like the Ursa get the addition of those, and maybe some of the other ships, some vehicles like that. I still want, in lore, the Ursa is based off of called the Marine Rapid Assault Vehicle or something like that, the MRAV, or Marine Assault Vehicle, the MAV. And I want
The
that
Bushmaster, right?
Yeah, I want that heavy military version of the Ursa. You know, make it a half track or something like that, and give it a big gun.
Yeah, our mine resistant
Yeah, undersides or whatever.
transport vehicle.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, give us the MRAP version of the Ursa.
That was the other thing that slightly annoyed me about the MTC was it wasn't the because you had PTV, UTV,
Yeah.
STV. They'd all been TV up until that point. Why wasn't it mobile? Because it's mobile tactical center. Why wasn't it just mobile tactical vehicle?
Sound like a TV channel.
Different manufacturer?
No, it's the same manufacturer. It's all great.
Oh, it's because as Albert said, it's because the acronym would be MTV. And everyone would make
my problem is it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Would have made the acronym exactly the same.
You know,
MTV even works even better.
You've got your marketing.
MTC means nothing.
No, MTC means a lot to me. It's a college I went to.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, but MTV means a shitload more to more people if you do the math.
Everything to everyone else.
Is that the abbreviation for Montreal, or is that MTL? It's MTL. It's MTL.
No.
MTL, yeah.
No, MTC, more theological college. So.
All right, so let's move on to the next ship, the next vehicle, which is the Guardian MX. Al, your thoughts on the Guardian MX?
I kind of like it, but I'm concerned of feature creep. The fact that it's got 4 size 4s and 24 size 2 missiles. That's a lot of firepower. It encroaches on what I remember the Connie used to be. So the Connie used to be 4 size 4s. I know it's just been updated to size 5s, or recently updated to size 5s. And the Connie used to have 28 size 2 missiles. So, and then 24 size 1. So that's getting really close into that armaments and capabilities of a 5-person ship.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my concern. But other than that, I like it.
Trist, your thoughts on the MX?
I'll talk about the design then. That is one of the silhouettes that we have still, or that we hadn't seen yet, and I still am not sure 100% if that is the one or if they tricked us with this one, because we were all talking about these, like Starjum and Execute. We were talking about these round engines. They were just not visible in that perspective, and they should have, and now they are there. So is it the same? Is it something else that they changed to that? But ultimately, I don't really like it that much, because this whole aesthetic of this performance brand that also gets weapons slapped on was believable to a certain point, but now such a heavy TIE fighter thing with these nimble racing ball engines at the back, it just looks weird to me. I like the front, I like the wings, but the back is just I don't think it matches up really well.
Well, I'll add my 2 cents here. I actually think that there might be another variant again. And the reason for this is the same thing. I think there's a variant for the MTC, like another hint towards it, is there's so many skins for the MTC and there's so many skins for this thing. Normally they do like 3 or 4 skins at best. There's 6 for each of these. And one of them, the one for the Guardian, is heavily, all 3 of them are heavily racing themed, which is also really strange. So I'm not saying there's a racing one coming, but that just seems to be something that they do for Mirai ships. They always have like a racing skin now. It is essentially, if you think about how the Guardian is done, it's 4 wings or 4 nacelles, and you just change one. And if you look at it, you can see that it's kind of like stretched and squashed. So it's like a flatter TIE fighter, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm not so worried about the feature creep because, like Argrid is, essentially, if you take the saber's all size 3s, but it's got 4 guns, you're just upping the guns by 1 size. And I think that does validate the extra price. It goes from a medium fighter to a heavy, which makes a lot of sense to me personally. And the missiles are only on top. But if it did have a lot more missiles, then I'd start to become worried. It would creep into the Constellation territory at that point. But again, they are in the same price point. But yeah.
And the other thing is, like, we postulated or speculated it could be a torpedo boat, mainly based on the information that it was heavy ordnance. I don't, and on the other side, I don't see size 2 missiles as being heavy ordnance.
No.
And I don't see size 4s particularly being heavy either, because I would have said size 5s are heavy, because that's where that line is where you jump from. I almost wonder if this was originally planned, like, because think about back when the Guardian came out, the Guardian and the Quai are so close to each other, it's insane. Like, literally, they almost fly identical, and the only difference is one comes with the QED and the other doesn't, or the dampener and the other doesn't. And it just doesn't make sense. It was like this just wasn't ready in time, but they had place for 2 of them, so they just made a variant, and it's just kind of weird.
Yeah,
to me. I
the base has always felt weird compared to the Quai. It's always been
got no reason to exist.
Yeah, because, like, why would you get it when you get everything you want with the Quai? And I think the only major thing is when engineering comes in and the power. You may have the same amount of power distribution in the Guardian base versus the Quai. So if you want to use the Quai, like the dampeners, it will cause you to use less of your own. Like, you'll have less power to
energy reserves.
Yeah.
Well, when it was in release, I did tests, and I actually got in game with another person, just a random player or whatever, and he was in the Guardian, and I was in the Guardian Quai, and the only stat that was different was the roll speed, and literally we counted the spins until when it went back into alignment, and it was 20 spins. So basically, I would do 19 spins in the Quai, and he did 20 in the Guardian. That's the difference. 1 spin different out of 20.
Yeah.
Next to no difference. Yeah.
What to do with that information?
Yeah. I will say in general, the idea, I think one of the things is that it doesn't have a bed. So that's its one downside, is it doesn't have a bed like the other 2 do. So
so it turns it from a long range fighter to a short range fighter.
Medium range, short to medium range, but it's like it becomes a heavy punching medium range ship rather than a long range like anti-large ship. It becomes it punches down rather than up because of those size 4s. People have been saying that like size 4s and size 5s were going to be like size 4s couldn't do anything to capital ships, and as like if it was some sort of rumor. It's like we knew for a while that the 4s were designed as anti-fighter and size 5 and up are anti-large. So, and we know that like size 7s are the ones that are the baseline damaging of a capital ship. So, you know.
Well, if you look at it,
go ahead, Chris.
I would like to add something, but we can do it at the end if you're.
No, go for it.
When Execute's done with the details.
In the free, so go for it. Free form.
So part why I'm not super excited about it is what I hoped was that it was significantly different from the existing one, because I thought this is too similar to being teased in the silhouette thing. And a lot of my comments wanted something alien that just happens to look similar in the silhouette, but then transforms into something different. So I was preparing a video where I had drawn something that I would like to see, which is some kind of Gattac thing that looks like that on the when it's static, but then all these 4 wings, they just fold up like on the Raylan. So basically like a small Raylan thing to test that mechanic out. And that would have been more interesting, I think.
The way
but also absolutely there's no reason to believe that.
You know the TIE Defender?
Yeah.
That's what I would like to see. Something like that by Gattac. I reckon that would be really cool. Like, so
just not static. The wings not static.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know what the TIE Defender is, it's essentially got 3 wings, and it's just this I don't know if you can bring up a picture, Paul, but like it's just a monstrosity.
Yeah. They can
and
good
that
TIE
would-
Defender. It's pretty well
it
done.
would work.
Yeah.
It would work because it's a little bit like the Saulian. You know, the Saulian with the triangle looking thing. It's just triangle, but it kind of like in reverse, so to speak. But yeah.
Yep.
Ooh. All right. Excuse me. Oh, I'm suddenly, it's, it's freaking 3 p.m. and I'm yawning and X is, it's an X and L.
Old man Texas. Old man
Texas.
So X, I'll ask you the next one because you last to talk about that it is the Asgard. What's your thoughts?
I've got a joke set up for next week. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll tell you about it later, Agrid. Yeah. So, I think the person that I'd really think is a very, and I have to be like, normally I don't agree with everyone's takes, right? But I think Expat's got a really good take on this. She really went out of her way to buy the Valkyrie Liberator, because it came out after she was around, and she really wanted that rare skin, and now this thing's dropping, and she's literally going, "That's what I actually wanted." But it didn't exist. So I think they've got a real potential problem on their hands when it comes to people that wanted what this was, but it wasn't available. Normally we see a ship come behind the other one. So if you kind of think about it, well, in a way, it's a ship that's under the Hercules as an example, but then it's above the Valkyrie. So it's when you see these ships that are like got better features, but it's essentially the same thing you already have, that really annoys people. Another good example that would be the opposite was where the Golem came in. No one seemed to really care when the Golem dropped because it was so much notably lower that it was actually a benefit to new players. But when a thing like this comes in and it essentially treads so much on what you actually wanted, it literally appeals to everyone that brought the Valkyrie. Why would I want my Valkyrie now? And the only thing I can see that they've done is they removed all the troop stuff.
Yeah.
Like I was essentially calculating that they'd have about 8 troops to fit on the actually I went through it yesterday, the Spartan yesterday. The Spartan has 8 troops but 1 crew. So they need 9 seats in that thing to really offer the correct crew count down the bottom for the Spartan. And there's 2. There's room for extra seats, but they just gutted them all to make the Valkyrie have a place. And that's what I find a bit weird. It is a compliment to Valkyrie. Like I could so see the Valkyrie coming in and it's got all the troops on it and a bunch of Cyclones or a medium vehicle. And then this comes in and it's got the tank and the 2 crew members for that. Yeah. So they've almost made them so they're going to work together, but they've almost gimped this in a way to make the Valkyrie not look shit. So neither one wins. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They've made compromises to appease the audience. And I think that's a terrible design philosophy in my book, but it could be for gameplay reasons, so I don't want to do that. But just the outside going in, there's a big negative looming there. Like I can see a lot of people getting really annoyed down the line. But as the ship is itself, like we kind of do need a ship. I just think they should have probably taken it away from the Valkyrie because it's going to leave a bad taste in a lot of Valkyrie owners' mouths.
Okay. Trist, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the only good explanation they had was that it's good stepping stone, like before the C2, and so I think that makes sense. But maybe maybe we wouldn't have that problem that you just talked about if they just chose another manufacturer. So they need that ship of that size, but not that close to the Valkyrie. So
what about price though, Tris, as well? Because you've got the Valkyrie is only $25 less than. Well, it's $375 for a Valkyrie, and it's $400 for a C2. You see the problem there? And and if they don't bring it out at like exactly the same price or cheaper, which I just can't see them doing that. I really can't. It's just going to create all these problems because, like, at the price you're at, you just jump to the M2. Like, it's only $100 and something more, and you get so much more ship, so much more cargo. And that's the other thing. It's got double the cargo of the Valkyrie.
Yeah, 180.
That's nuts,
isn't it? Well,
yeah,
180, 160,
180.
something like.
It's 180.
Yeah, well, I think there's 2 options they could have done. Either different manufacturer, different price point, something just under the C2, but no comparison to the to the two other anvil ones, or just make it even bigger, because especially after the Paladin came out, I saw a lot of people, including myself, disappointed because we heard that there's going to be a great anvil carrier ship coming, something like really big. And just a few weeks ago, people were just saying Asgard can't be this size; it must be bigger because this is the home of the god. And if it was bigger, then it would have made sense in the anvil lineup, and I would have liked something bigger, obviously. But yeah, with this, it's just too close to the other ones. Also, visually, I think they are. I mean, visual language in between the manufacturer is cool and all, but I think these three now are so close to each other.
You can almost see the size, because it's like the Paladin is like a snub version of the Valkyrie, and then there's the Valkyrie, and then there's the Asgard, which is sort of like an elongated version of the Valkyrie. So it's like three different body types to the chassis and three different things. It's like the famous Mustang and double up Mustang, the Mustang double wing, where it's like two P-51 Mustangs glued together. Yeah. Algared, your thoughts on the Asgard?
You even said it right there.
Yeah.
You even said it right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get the same frustration X does in terms of the crew seats, the jump seats disappearing. I get that the two jump seats down the bottom kind of work for being the tank. I do like, though, the fact that the components are kind of on the interior of a ship, which is going to make it harder to take them out, because the components are, the shields, all those are basically where those crew quarters were. I think the Asgards got heavier armor from memory, which means it can take more hits and take things closer to combat. But yes, it can take a tank, it can take a large vehicle. That's a bonus for it. The problem is that if you take the Spartan, then the crew for the Spartan basically have to sit on the Spartan and twiddle their thumbs while they go to the target. Other than that, it's a nice ship.
Okay. I'm going to be bold and daring and take the opposite role. I like what they're doing with the Asgard. I think it is exactly what people wanted, and I think it is good that it is so similar to the Valkyrie, because the Valkyrie is clearly the troop transport. It can carry a support vehicle, but it's clearly the troop transport. And the Asgard is clearly the vehicle transport. Not really crew, but it can take a heavy vehicle. So that way, you have the three ships in this sort of family of ships, the Valkyrie family of ships, where you have a gunship, which is designed for supporting ground attack, but it carries no troops, no equipment. Then you've got the sort of mixed, mostly infantry-focused Valkyrie, and then you've got the Asgard, which is pure vehicles. And that allows for what people have been comparing both the Valkyrie and the Asgard to, which is the Cheyenne dropship from Aliens, and of course the Pelican from Halo, which the Pelican itself is a copy of the Cheyenne dropship from Aliens. And people have the number of times I've heard people say, "What if you could take the Valkyrie and remove the backside and just sling load a tank like you can, like the Pelicans can sling load the Scorpion tanks in Halo?" That's what literally what CIG did. They just said, "Let's just make it so it can carry a tank." That's it. So
I still want to see a dropship for a vehicle that does it with a tractor beam attachment or something like that. So it's like we haven't, we've got external cargo. Why can't we have an external vehicle holder? Is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, it's kind of what we already have.
That's something I'd like to see.
I think it's the plan was to do that. I mean, they said that they wanted the cargo bays to be able to carry non-standard SCU stuff, like vehicles and such. And that's one of the reasons.
Kind of like what you're saying. Imagine if they had a Paladin variant that made it so that essentially the turret can't move on a track, right? Because the vehicle would be there. But it had grav plates or something like that just hold on to a vehicle, and a tractor beam maybe on the bottom turret to pick it up and put it in place. Something akin to that.
Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons why they wanted to. They're not going to give us just a vehicle spawning like platform for our hangars. Instead, they're going to have the vehicles come up through the cargo elevator because they want to be able to turn the vehicles into cargo so that you can attach vehicles to cargo grids. Turn them into items. So that's one of the abilities. So like, you should be able to like SRV or even like the raft, like stick a Nova Tonk on a raft and then just drop it off like that kind of thing. Last I'll do. I'm gonna mix things up. The last video, the last ship that's of the official lineup. I'm gonna go over this one. Is the TAC, and I'm going to start with Trist on this one. I'm going to go Trist, Hal, X, and then myself. So Trist, your thoughts on the TAC?
Okay, that's good because unlike X, I like it a lot.
Woo!
I know that people are saying
outside for a second. Let's just go outside. We'll talk about it. Nothing's going to happen.
It's just because I don't. In this case, I don't care about or I don't think that much about the role and manufacturer. I know that MISC shouldn't make a gunship like that, but it just looks phenomenal. It's just the detailing is so amazing, like both exterior and interior. Even though the interior I've seen was very dark, but it looks amazing. It's another step up from everything, and then also this is the first time that they really made the place for a small vehicle, except Archimedes, so not the snaps, but like a real small fighter. So that is also amazing to see as a first, and I just think design-wise it's phenomenal. So I can oversee that it shouldn't exist from MISC.
Al, your thoughts on the TAC?
It designed not really as a gunship, I don't think.
Leave out what SA said because I'm going to talk about that.
Yep. So it's not really a gunship. And that kind of
my fault
fits into that. No, that's what they call it, but it's not really a gunship. It doesn't have a role.
I disagree, but go for it. You keep going.
I don't mind the port starboard turrets that are 90-degree arc to the side. I get what they're doing. But the problem is they're the biggest weapons on the ship, and that means you've either got to have your pilot moving the ship so that each gunner can fire, but the second he moves the ship one way, so the port gunner can fire, the starboard gunner's out of arc. So you've got this dynamic where it plays into the pilot working with his gunners, and yet doesn't play into working with the gunners. So I'm kind of torn in that sense. I like the fact that there's a small snub fighter on it. It just gives it that utility, but the fact that it's so much bigger than a Connie, and the other ships that have those snubs, I would have liked to see it take 2 of those snubs, just to give it that it's got something else. It feels like they're trying to do something. It just doesn't feel like it quite does or fits into the role that they're trying to fit it into. And as X said, as I was talking to us the other day, and he said some things, but I'll leave those for X to talk about because that fits in with his jam.
Right. X. So famously, me and X have disagreed on the Starlancer since the beginning of the release. So I'm going to let X. I wanted X to stew a little bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, before you go on, I do like the view that both side big guns do remind me of the old the jolly green giant type thing that the C-130 that used to use the cannons to chew up the ground below. Spooky. I can see it having that role, but
X.
So I was really hopeful that the TAC was going to be good. I really was, right? And when the video came out, that kind of ended for me yesterday because those turrets can't go forward, fire forward, like Algrid was saying. It literally changes it from a gunship to a dropship. It is literally, they are designed to fire down. You cannot fire forward. And if they change that, I would change. It is such a major thing of that ship. If you have got those massive guns and they cannot fire forward to shoot other ships, then it totally changes how it works. They are literally for shooting down. It's almost like the Hammerhead versus the A2. right? They have the same firepower, but all the guns in the A2 are downwards facing, so it's got this massive problem. So that means that ship is only good in atmosphere, yet it's also got incredibly long range capabilities. That's an oxymoron, right? But like Trispone said, it's got lots of nice little features inside. In fact, inside, the only problem I have with it compared to the Max is the corridor around the hangar. They could have just made the whole hangar bigger and had 2 doors, right? In my opinion. And you could have fitted heaps more things in there. All that aside, SA comes on the show yesterday and goes, "What if this?" Right? And tell me this is a version that does not sound better, right?
Sure.
You don't need the big gun turrets on it, right? You basically essentially that whole bottom area that lowers down to the ground on the Max. Instead, either side you make it so it's dockable Furies, and the Furies can drop off, right? And then you can all land in the hangar to refuel and rearm them. That would have been insane. You could have had like 6 Furies, 3 each side, and then you have like because you've got all that extra room for troops. They have all little
your Fury dropship idea.
Yep.
No, this was SA's idea. It was they did try to make the turrets be Furies because someone at CIG did give them that idea that the community had shared with them, but they couldn't get it to work because the Furies were just too big. Right?
They actually. Ben and John said they actually liked that idea and they tried it and it just didn't work. But I actually think you can actually see elements where they tried it. You know, you've got that entrance to the turret is that tube. So
yeah. But if they don't look, they could fix it all pretty easily. Like there is room, in my opinion, to just make the turrets come out a little bit more so they can turn and face forward. It'd fix the biggest problem with the ship. But again, they may be doing it for gameplay reasons that we don't understand, right? But to me, it is a massive oversight. It's the same problem we bitched about on the Corsair. Remember when the Corsair came out and they didn't shoot forward like that? They fixed it before it came out. They need to do the same thing here. They need to make it so they fire forward, and I think a lot of my complaints will dissipate. It's exactly like Agrid said. The biggest guns right there, and you can't bring them to bear on other ships is kind of ridiculous.
So
the other way you could do it is probably make the turrets smaller and put the bigger guns on top. I don't know, but yeah,
I'd still want to make the bigger guns crew controlled rather than pilot controlled because that's one of my beef with the big ships. You know, multi-crew ship, pilot's got all the firepower, the crew's sitting there going twiddle their thumbs. You know, so I'd like to, but yeah, I still like the idea of the Fury dropship being a variant of Starfarer. You know, remove the turrets, remove the pods, and put them.
Yeah, it just makes the whole hangar because essentially, if you look at the Constellation, it works totally fine without a hangar. You don't need a hangar for one little snub. It's just overkill. Right. But again, if you had a whole bunch of them, that's a mini carrier. People would line up to buy that thing.
Oh, yeah. We want to have CIG.
And I have no doubt you could bring out a pack that includes all the Furies that go in it, like 7 Furies, and people would buy it because it would be convenient. It's literally a thing licensed to print money. Like I would buy one. That sounds amazing to me. But no, we've got this instead, and it just is this weird hybrid thing that doesn't do anything quite right. And I'm talking function. I agree with everything Tris said. The way it looks is amazing. You know, interior functionality inside is all great. But when you come down to play it as a dropship, and I have to relay back to people like SA that are military people, they're all telling me that there are massive problems with this thing from a military standpoint. But anyway, I digress now. I'll shut the fuck up.
Okay, it's fine. I wanted to let you. I wanted to let you go. Go ahead, Trist.
I thought that was by design because you're just talking about military people. The AC-130 is called a gunship, and that is only firing down and not at other things forward. So I thought that is by design, and that's fine for me because I didn't expect it to go head-to-head against the Corsair.
Yeah, it's important to remember as well when we're talking about the roles of ships in Star Citizen. CIG is notoriously bad at labeling things. They've gotten better at it, but what they call a gunship versus a dropship versus a space superiority fighter versus a long-range exploration. I always remember someone once famously complained about the Corsair because they say it's an exploration ship. Why does it have so many guns? They have to remove all these guns because it's too many guns. It's not supposed to be an exploration ship. And it's like, my brother and Chris, it's a Drake ship. It's an exploration ship. Come on, man.
So it's actually listed as a patrol.
Patrol ship
is what
Okay.
it's. Well, I thought it would be listed as gunship or dropship, but it's listed as neither.
So for me, I'm with Tristan in terms of it looks great, and for me, I think it is the perfect ship for what it's designed to do and what it's supposed to do in terms of gameplay, in terms of lore. The designer Adam Parker, who's I think is the main designer behind this one. I like a lot of their designs. Adam's a really good designer when it comes to ships. I also know them not personally, but I talk with them in on social media before because they post on social media. They're big Warhammer fans. They show off their painting of their miniatures and stuff like that. That's mostly. Don't try to find them on Twitter or Blue Sky or whatever because you'll just see them painting minis unless you want to see that. I like the design on top of that, but it's clearly like this is so clearly the AC 130, the AC 47, the AC 130. Like it is like the silhouette, the where everything is posed. It is so spooky, Spectre. It's what it's designed to do, and the reason why it's called a patrol is because it's designed as a civilian solution to a civilian problem. Because it's not really a military ship, because a military would have a logistics chain, they would have, like forward operating bases. Like this is designed as like, what happens if you put a bunch of rednecks on the space frontier and they have to deal with a bunch of bandits who are going after them? How do they patrol an area of space where they need to deal with something? You get something that's simple, that's an all-in-one solution, that has multiple ways of dealing with the problem, and is very versatile in terms of what you need to. You need to drop a couple people off to go shoot somebody in the face. You got seats in the back. You need to do some exploration, some scouting. You've got yourself a Fury. You need to start shooting people on the ground. You got big guns. You need to start shooting people in space. You still got those big guns. Like it is a simple solution to a complicated problem aimed at civilians and militia rather than the military. That's why I always said, of course, it doesn't make any sense militarily. It's not a military ship. It is the final evolution of a technical. It is a technical patrol ship. So,
go ahead, Edward.
I was just going to say, and from the video that CIG put out where they talked about it, one of the devs was saying, and it's got stealth. It's got a stealth skin to make it smaller, that would help. So yeah.
So basically, I don't have to like the ship, right? And I always think of what Space Tomato used to say. There has to be things in this game that you don't like for other people to enjoy it. So if there are other people that enjoy it, that's awesome. I have no issue with you liking it, me not liking it, like every ship in the game. I got no issue with that. One thing I do want to ask you specifically, and I did ask kind of Algrid this as well, because you two guys are probably the two biggest lore guys I know. How, and I think you kind of alluded to this with the Guardian MX, Trist. How do you feel about a lot of the way Mirai's been brought in, and it's meant to be this combat racing performance thing, but they're not using it where they should? Because in my eyes, things like the Freelancer Miss and this should have been put under the Mirai brand. But again, they're not following their own lore, and that was the other thing that we learned at CitizenCon when we talked to John and Ben. They give two shits about the lore until it services their needs. And it took me some time to remember, because I hadn't done game development in a really long time. That is actually how they do it. The story doesn't matter. It's just make really cool shit and then bring the story in and retcon it all at the end, which is what I reckon they're going to do. But it just, to me, this would have been a much better Mirai ship. Like, also think about it, we don't have a big Mirai ship. We do. We kind of have the Odyssey for the Misk, but it would have been. I can see why they've done it, right? They had a lot of the assets there ready to go and stuff like that. But I think it just specifically this TAC version, they should have brought Mirai in. And again, we know the inside of most Mirai ships is essentially Misk anyway, just that kind of red aesthetic. It would have been a really good collab one for them to do with their own company or whatever.
I can tell you the logical reason why, and then I can tell you the lore reason why. The logical reason why is in order to make it Mirai, they would have had to spend extra time changing it's your orange child. There he is. X is
She.
holding
This is the she.
she.
This is Sadie.
Your orange daughter. I have heard the rumors of the orange cats having one brain cell that they share at any point and at the moment. They're very vulnerable.
The reason why I got gingers is they're comically known to be the best temperament, and these two both have the best temperament. They just growl at me. They never attack me.
Yeah. No,
Unless I push them really
chill.
far.
I've heard they're very chill.
They're very chill.
But they're also very
No.
head empty.
This one is not. No, this one's not empty. No, she's a pain in the ass. She'll sit there and meow like crazy.
But meow at him if he doesn't feed him on time.
Yeah.
Oh well, that's
like
cats.
Yesterday.
That's all cats. What was I going to say? The reason why is because they in order for them to have made enough modifications to the Starlancer frame to make it into a more of a design like a Mirai ship would be. That amount of time is just like just throw it into MISC. It makes more sense. It makes because it's just a modification of the Starlancer. Let's put it in there. It makes it easier. And the lore reason would be similar, is that MISC is... So if Drake is sort of we're going to put some stuff together and see what it works and slowly figure out what works, MISC is like, we're going to do a study to see if there's enough evidence for a feasibility study on a ship. And then we'll do a feasibility study on this ship and run it for 6 months to make sure if it's okay. And then we're going to do a study on if the prototype would work in our current budget framework. And then we're going to take that study and actually build a prototype. And it'll take me 5 years after they started the damn thing in the first place.
And we'll do various prototypes on the same frame.
Yes.
The other thing that really stands out is when they introduced Mirai and said we're breaking it away. One of the key components of that was not only the high-end performance, but also leveraging more heavily on the alien tech that they get from
the alien aesthetic and tech.
The alien aesthetic and the alien tech from not the Vandur, from Xi'an, which are both evil in my opinion. And so that's, I think, one of the other reasons why it doesn't fit into the Mirai file, because it's not leveraging that Xi'an tech to that same level.
That's what I'm saying.
I saw that
they would definitely have some sort of thruster technology from the Xi'an for that to make sense,
Yeah. So Shem Pastor has asked a very serious question for you. Execute. Do they eat Sanya?
No. The boy is very weird, actually. He loves rainbow paddle pops and twisties, and he is absolutely addicted to milk like it's crack. This one, nothing. Just regular meat and that and water. She's very
not
simple.
Garfield. Got it.
No.
Right.
He's a little bit like Garfield. A little bit. Twisties and ice cream.
Our youngest Kit, she will eat anything. You put her, you put like salad before her, she'll eat it. Like, so we have to actually be careful, because if she thinks it's food, she'll eat it. So like chocolate, she'll just go straight up to try to go for it. It's like, no, that's gonna kill you. She doesn't care. She just eats it. Whereas like the other cats are like, they'll sniff it and go, no. They don't really like human. They don't really like human food. But yeah, Kit is a monster. She'll just like get into any food she can to eat it. So I get that.
When you get she has a daughter or something like that, you need to call it Knight Rider.
Yeah. Well, that's that's an interesting part. We actually named her after Eartha Kitt, because when she was a little kitten, she had these huge ears like Batman. Like, so we was like, okay, well, what's a name for a Batwoman and or for Catwoman, and because it's Batman and cat. And my wife was like, well, Eartha Kitt's the best Batwoman or Catwoman that exists. So we named her after Eartha Kitt. And then I realized afterwards that Kit is also Knight Rider, and she's like a black and white cat. So it's perfect for named after Knight Rider too. So
appeal to both.
Maybe just shorten it to Knight or something like that then. Like, but Knight with a K.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've talked about all the ships.
Now one more point for the tech though.
What's up? Go ahead.
Sorry. I was just thinking about what you two were fighting or discussing about. I'm kind of with Execute on that. This looks too well made for what Paul, you just described it as. And I really like your description as this kind of a private militia thingy. But just like any other ship we have, it looks like it's straight from the manufacturing line. It looks so brand new and it doesn't look like it's built special for these few people. But it sounded like something niche, really, right? There are not that many Frontier.
Oh, there's a
rednecks.
lot. There's a lot, though. That's the thing. Is that one of the big
Right.
one of the big
He's one of them. He's one of them.
one of the big movements in lore right now, which is sort of like a connection to the gameplay itself, is that the UEE is so focused on the Vanduul front that they have to pull forces away from home defense. So the only people that are left are the advocacy. The advocacy is like comically underfunded, and there might be 6 agents in an entire system. A system like Terra might have like 12. But and we know, as of right now, we know of 1 agent that is in the Stanton system, which is Dooley. And as far as we know, she's the only agent. There might be a couple of different officers there, but that's why they use the CDF. And so the CDF, as part of the CDF was part of the Militia Mobilization Initiative, a lot of companies began to build ships specifically for militia to fill the gap of what's being left over from the UEE being leaving. So MISC building the TAC is basically them going, there is a market for a bunch of rednecks on the frontier who need to stop pirates from attacking them, and we can't expect them to know what logistics chains are. So we need to be able to give them an all-in-one solution to their problem. Here you go. Kind of thing.
Right, but I don't see these people buying the perfectly brand new polished things right from the factory. I would have thought that this
like an
role, just what you described,
kit.
Right, an aftermarket kit. We have shops for those, but we haven't seen them put to use. This as an like a tacked on wordplay there.
So you mean like Cousin
would
Crows?
be, yeah, right. So make it look a little self-made, a little wrecked, and still have the same functionality would maybe a better idea to have some variety in there.
I would like to see a lot more collabs and stuff, like what we saw in the Star Lancer and the Star Lancer. Sorry, the Starfarer and the Starfarer Gemini. Yeah, I just think that's such an unutilized thing. I think the only other one I can really think of, and now you really just reminded me of, is the Privateer. That is technically by Cousin Crows, not by Drake.
Yeah.
So if you kind of think that through, we've only got 2 collabs. I'd like to see a lot more. And it's kind of like what I said. I would have liked to see Mirai and Merc work with MISC to make the TAC. And it would also make sense to go back and retroactively do it to things like the Miss. I just, like, if you've got the law there, why not use it? Like, it just seems like such an oversight. And it doesn't have to be the whole ship. Like, for example, the turrets could have just been done by Mirai. Everything else could have been MISC.
Yeah. Al, you were going to say something?
The other thing for the collabs, we do have probably the first company to really do collabs is Kruger.
Yeah.
Kruger collab with Aegis with their the Tiger Shrek cannon on I think it's the Avenger series.
Yeah, the Avenger series.
They also collab with RSI with the P52 and P72, and now they're going out with their soon to be bringing out their light fighter. So that's another company that does collabs. Yeah. The other thing, to come back to the issue with not the rednecks buying the ships off the market. That's true, and you could expect to see aftermarket modifications. But the other thing that also comes in is the planetary defences, like the local governments are buying ships. And so you've got the Bremen Defence Force, which is the model for the Citizen Defence Force. They actually would buy ships for the Bremen Defence Force. And so they're the types of groups that are appealing to this. And the Polaris is one of those ships that comes out of that CDF, and one of the key groups that in law influence the development of that is the Bremen Defence Force. So you've actually got that planetary defences, or the local system governments banding together to buy those ships and help influence the design. But
and it's a lot, it's a lot cheap. It's a lot cheaper for them to take an existing model like a Freelancer or Starlancer and modify it and then sell it on their own lines than it would be to just modify it after the fact. But yeah, go ahead, Al.
Yeah. No, and I think so. You've got that aspect, and I think that's where it comes from. And I think it does tie into those, as you were saying, Paul, the idea of that development of ships. So, and I think that's where Drake has also leveraged into that as well with the Cutlass Blue. So the Cutlass Blue and the Cutlass Red are again filling that void where the military or the official forces are pulled out, and it's helping those planetary defense forces equip their defense systems. It's not necessarily going for the local org or bandit group that's after a new ship. It's more the planet or system defense systems.
And I was saying in terms of gameplay, this is because players like that's the whole point of this lore aspect is like because players need to fill that role of being the enforcers of these systems, and because they need more contract labor and that kind of stuff. So it's all about trying to get players to do those things. But all right, so we've talked about the TAC. The last thing I want to talk about before I get to the question and answers is the one that everyone has been whispering about or shouting about, depending on who you are, the Idris. There's more and more evidence that if the Idris is not coming out this Invictus, it is coming out soon. So I'm going to start with you, X, on this one. Do you believe that the Idris is coming out soon? Or is it going to be the P, the K, and the M, or just the P, or just the M? Which one do you think would come out first?
I think the last part really doesn't matter. I think you're probably going to get all of them or some of them. That to me is superfluous.
Okay.
And that's probably the hardest part to attain. But I think there's now starting to become overwhelming evidence that it's coming. The most telling thing for me, besides like the shirt that's coming in the sub flare, the fact that it's like already in game for you to walk around and tour. Aegis is the first day of the sale, stuff like that. Is Disco Lando. He put a post out saying, someone said, "Is there any more ships coming?" And he literally replied and said, "Every ship that's coming was in today's video."
And he did say,
and then he deleted the.
Well, he also said in that video that they were going to be doing more videos like they did with Attack for the 4 new ships. So implying that the Attack was not part of that video series. So there were going to be 4 new ships outside of the Attack. That was one of the.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, which implied there was another ship. But the really telling thing is that he deleted the post. If he hadn't deleted it, that I wouldn't even be looking at that. I'd just go, okay, cool, whatever. But the fact that he deleted it, again, shows there's something to hide. Stuff like that. So, I always thought that it was going to be Ironclad for a long time, but I think I'm really starting to think now that it's the Idris. We talked about a little bit about this before the show. We were really led to believe that the game was releasing next year. Squadron was releasing last year. It's the whole reason we went to CitizenCon. We had a lot of people tell us, I won't go into details, but long story short, we went, something changed, and they've obviously delayed it. They did delay it for quite a period of time, but again, you would have to plan at least a certain amount of time out to get someone to polish off that ship. They said that ship would come out after Squadron 42 or shortly after Squadron 42 releases. So if you kind of add 6 months, they have had someone working on this for a long period of time, like say 18 months or whatever. And now it's kind of ready to go. I think they're going to release it. And if you look at other things like the F8 Lightning, the F7A, they have broken all those promises. Why would they hold this back now? If it's sitting there ready to go and they're trying to hype up stuff and they're trying to sell heaps of stuff and get the ball rolling and starting to build that hype for Squadron, it's just another tool in that arsenal that they can use. And not only that, like the Polaris versus the Idris fights, shit writes itself, and let's be honest, they don't need to sit back on the Idris anymore. We've seen so much of the Idris now that we know the entire interior. There's no reason to sit on it to save it for the story. Like it just, there's no reason to do it anymore. I think it's I only in the last 24 hours have I really turned around, right? Even since the stream yesterday, there was more things that came. I can't remember what it was specifically, but there was something after me in Agrid stream that someone shared with me, and I went, oh shit, okay, I think it's coming now.
Was it the
But-
models? Because I know earlier we were talking about, you and Trist were talking about, like, there's some models things that weren't modeled, and now it seems like there are.
That was already in, but that was something that I had to share with Trist before the show. So when we were on the stream where me, Grim, and Trist did, the texture was absolutely awful. That's all been fixed now. That's all gone away. There's only one thing left that I want to check that me and Trist was talking about before the show, and that's the turret, where I was upside down in the turret on one side of the ship and all the text was backwards. Now, things like that have started to be fixed. That means they're going in and tidying it all up for release, because that's the type of shit you do not do until just before release, because it's work that you're going to do and undo, right? So they don't do double ups. But if all that's being corrected, then we've got signs that this thing is ready for launch. So yeah.
Trist,
I
your
could check
thoughts?
that right now if I wanted to, but yeah.
Your thoughts? Do you think? Oh, I don't think. Actually, do you think it's coming out at Invictus?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is.
Trist, do you think the Idris is coming out at Invictus or soon? And which version do you think is going to be releasing first?
It's tricky because like 20 minutes ago, I would have said absolutely not because it's not in the state. But again, I saw it a week ago, and now apparently a lot of the texture stuff has been fixed. And to me, it doesn't really matter. I'm not with Execute on that one. I just don't want to see it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it's ready, and I know they have no reasons to hold it back. But for me, it was a big thing. This being your main home in Squadron 41, Squadron 42, episode 1. You can only walk on that ship for the first time so many times before it gets familiar, and I just don't want to see that yet. I don't. It will ruin it for me if I walk around it too much now. So I would have just liked them to wait. And same for the F8. I wanted that moment of this ship being the one new hope that we get, and I haven't flown it so far because I want to have that moment when it's in the story.
But you got to think about, like, most people will come into the game never even heard of Star System or Squadron 42, so they're still going to see that. The other thing is, like I said, like, if you look at it as a marketing tool, does that help Squadron 42? And it absolutely undeniably does. Right, this whole year, if you kind of think about it, this whole going back and tidying up the whole game so it looks more stable, more clean and all that, that's putting on a suit so it looks so much better. So when they release Squadron, there's not Star Citizen hanging around its neck like a lead balloon going, oh, this doesn't run properly, don't buy it, it's a buggy mess.
Off of one side, and not being able to, like, walking into walls, and like,
so having that one that one really big capital ship in this Idris, this is one of those big ships we promised, and it's there, and you got the Polaris up there as well. Like, I'm gonna honestly say it, I wouldn't be surprised if they also try to get the Javelin out for the exact same reasons, right? The Javelin is a lot, they have not shown off half as much, right? But we all know most of the layout on that one as well. I would say that's the ship that you're probably gonna experience a lot more for the first time, to be honest, Tris, because even I, that have been, and Paul have been here almost since the very beginning. Actually,
I wouldn't have minded the Javelin that much because, as you just said, it's a capital ship. Yeah, sure, we have one, but it's not your home.
Yeah.
Well, it is actually. You start out on it.
Yeah, but we
don't
for
really, like half an hour, but we already saw it.
Yeah,
most of the story.
So.
Yeah.
Most of the story, the Idris, the Stanton is your home. For, like, if not the most of the story, if not all the entirety of the story. We don't know the full breadth of how long you're on the Stanton, but at one point CIG did talk about how you were going to move from ship to ship to ship, kind of like you did with Wing Commander games. So
you might know more about that, but what I heard was this is for the first game, and then for the second game,
but originally it was going to be one game, and so it was going to be Stanton, like ship, and then the Pegasus, and then like the Idris, the Pegasus, and then the Bengal. But now, like, they had to split it into 3 different games. So yeah, you're right.
But I grew up with these X-Wing games where you, especially X-Wing Alliance, which has a lot of story, where you live on that home one for a big stretch, and you really, I mean, back then that was just an image. You couldn't walk around that, but you still got that sense of home and having a place to return to, and that's so special. And you won't have that if you already know that ship in and out. That's what I'm thinking. And they for so many years they kept that ship for that reason, And now releasing it so close before it just doesn't make sense for me. They could have released that 2 or 3 years ago. Not in a good state, obviously, but they could have had something.
Al, your thoughts? Do you think we're going to get the
I think
Idris?
the P. I think the evidence seems to be pointing that we'll get it. We've got and I think we'll get the Idris P with the K-Pack. Why I think the K-Pack is we're seeing the bearing point defense system on display, the missile launchers, and the K-Pack had 4 bearing BDC MC2s. Now, whether they're the missile variant or laser, I'm not sure, but the K-Pack had 4 of those. If you're bringing in the Idris to be able to take out and do capital ship warfare, the K-Pack brings in the 2 missile launchers, the anti-ship missile launchers, and it brings in the size 10 beam weapon, which then gives that big chunky weapon to balance it. In terms of the ship itself, the P originally was in lore was the unused or the older Idris M's being downgraded for peacekeeper services, so slightly undergunned, having armor taken off, so they had increased speed, more cargo, etc. But in lore, because they'd sold so many, they've actually changed that so that there's now producing at the Idris plants Ps for the local militias. Now, if we go from the point, just thinking lore-wise, if we go from the point that we're living in the world, living in the system, and we're helping our local planetary or system defense, chances are we would have been or seen an Idris P operating in our system. So that aspect, I think, as much as I would like that first experience like you, I wanted the F8 to be the ship. I wanted the Idris to be the ship. I want the Javelin to be the ship when I go on it the first time. If I'm a new recruit, I want to experience that awe and wonder and exploration. But there's also that other aspect of that we know CIG do as well, where if a ship is ready and it's got gameplay, they put it out. And they don't hold them back anymore. And the Idris is basically a carrier for fighters. Well, fighters are in. It's a combat ship. Combat's in. There's no reason to hold it back if it's ready.
Can I just add to what Algrid's saying? They've also found all the beam sounds in the files as well.
Is the audio.
Yeah, and I'd almost like, I don't know, I put this to you guys. The P, how do you reckon that would go against the Polaris? I don't think it would go very well. But the railgun against the Polaris,
yes,
I think that changes a little bit. I think it puts a more on an even keel, personally. All the new torpedoes that are coming in as well for the Polaris, but also they work on... Do they work on the Javelin as well? I'm not up on the torpedoes on the Javelin. Oh, not the Javelin, sorry. The
Idris. I think the Idris has the same torpedoes because it does have torpedoes, as far as I remember. I could be wrong on that one. That one I don't know 100%. I will say I was of the opinion that CIG would probably not release a ship like the Idris until they got engineering. I was under no illusion that CIG was not going to release the Idris this year because I believe that basically it's a money printer. And it's not just a money printer. It's a attention grabber. Like how many different YouTubers and content creators in general would be talking about the Idris frigate, which is, I know people say, oh, so Star Citizen is developing for the content creators. No, let me explain. That announcement would get people back to the game. And then more people would be coming in to see the ship as well as to join organizations to get into those ships, which would increase the amount of gameplay that people were doing. So it's both testing the ship before it goes to Squadron and before Squadron releases, so they have an idea of the performance and they can change things if they need to. It also allows the players to find bugs inside the ship for like geometry and other things like that they might be able to patch easier because they notoriously are bad at finding. Well, it's not just them. All game developers, it's harder for them to find all the bugs because they don't have the volume of people. And the P, especially, is the neutered version of the Idris. So it doesn't have a railgun. And if you don't have engineering out to balance the sort of like pilot having a giant rail cannon on its side, to make it overpowered so you can just solo an Idris effectively. If you don't have that engineering balance, if you have the P, there is no railgun. It's just you still have to crew the whole thing. So the P feels both perfect in terms of it's not the M. So, and we also know that the exterior of the P is still not the same exterior that's in Squadron 42 for the M. So the actual exterior of the ship might be different from what we see inside Squadron, like in terms of the M. It fits in terms of gameplay balance. It gets the attention out there, and it gives them time to test. It lets them players hold on to this ship to find the bugs that they may have missed in terms of the weird things like clipping through geometry at different places or different things not functioning properly. But like, yeah, I see it, and the more that I've heard about it, the more I'm like, yeah, I think the P's coming out. I don't know if the M or the K will be coming out. I think the P would be the easy win for them to come out at Invictus, and then the M and K come out later, maybe when they announce the actual date of Squadron later in the year. Or like, when they have closer to engineering, because that's another thing. I do believe that engineering is coming this year based off the monthly reports and everything else like that. So we'll see. All right, that is it for our discussion on the ships of Invictus. As always, thank you to Algrid and Execute. Go check them out at youtube.com/theinforunners, or just Inforunners, right? Not the Inforunners. You also find me there. I'll be there from time and again, and I'll be there during the Invictus celebrations to cover some of the new ships and the sales and everything. And of course, check out Trist PWN on YouTube for their speculative investigation work. There's more. A couple people have popped onto the chat being like, "I love your work, Trist." So go check them out. And if you did enjoy this, make sure you've followed us on Twitch, twitch.tv/theastropub. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for more content here on YouTube, and hit the bell icon to be notified when these release. I go live for the Captain's Table podcast on Saturdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/theastropub and youtube.com/@the Captain's Table podcast. We'd love to have you come join us live, because we're going to be moving into our After Dark section where we take questions from the chat, specifically about this topic or anything about Star Citizen in general. So for those of you watching live, hold on for a few moments. We'll be right back after take a quick break. For everybody else, thank you for watching. And like I say every time, hope to see you Sunday in the black.